Listen, I 100% agree with Hub Arkush right up until he says he's not going to vote for Aaron Rodgers for MVP. Like, Aaron Rodgers is a bad guy. Aaron Rodgers is a dirtbag. Aaron Rodgers is a sleazeball who hurt his team in the preseason and the offseason. And none of that matters because they're still the best team in football. And Aaron Rodgers is the best football playing player. There is no better way to talk about quote unquote value than that. The MVP has sort of distilled into just the best quarterback for the best team, which is Aaron Rodgers anyway. But if you really want to talk about value, we're talking about guys like Valdez-Scantling. We're talking about guys that without Aaron Rodgers, we would not know their names as being great football players. And I've absolutely driven the train for a while that Aaron Rodgers is a better supporting cast than he's often given credit for. That, when we were talking about him leaving the offseason, it's really hard to have a better supporting cast than one of the best offensive lines, Aaron Jones, et cetera, Devontae Adams, of course. But if you take Aaron Rodgers off the field, which we did, we saw what this offense looked like with Jordan Love. You're not scoring points. You're not scoring touchdowns. You're not the best team in the NFL. You're not the number one seed in the NFC. You're not a potential Super Bowl contender, if not Super Bowl favorite from the NFC at this point. I think there are so many different ways we could go on this, but I'm just going to say this. Hub Arkush had a great publication. And many of our listeners are not going to know his name because it was back in the era before, like, the internet was the only place to find NFL news. Yeah. It was back in the era where, you sort of learned about transactions in a printed document. And I loved Pro Football Weekly. I absolutely loved it. I never got the sense from reading Pro Football Weekly that the smartest person in that publication, or the one who knew the most about football, or the chief NFL insider from that publication was the guy who published it, was Hub Arkush. He is a football fan first and foremost, because the dude loves football. He is a Chicago Bears honk, if ever there was one. He doesn't go on Chicago sports radio to analyze the team. He goes on Chicago sports radio to show his fandom for the team each and every time he does it. And he loves the Chicago Bears and hates the Green Bay Packers, period. Those are personal feelings that he has. And the fact that he has an MVP vote and that only 50 people have MVP votes is a travesty from both ends of the spectrum. I think there should be more people watching more football games, less fans, less old-timey print era journalists voting for the MVP award, because there are just scores of really smart football people who watch just about every game, if not every game, each and every week, and have a much better handle on what value means than clearly Hub Arkush does.
What makes me the most angry about this is that we're now all forced to defend Aaron Rodgers. Like, we all have to declare we are on team Aaron Rodgers here, which I hate, because I hate Aaron Rodgers. Because, as you pointed out, Shadi, everything else that Hub said about Aaron Rodgers, except for the part where he doesn't deserve to be the MVP, is true. He's a terrible person, terrible human, hate him. But guys, it's not the nice person award. That's not why we're here. And he didn't do something, I think, that calls the accomplishment itself into question. It's like when you look at the Baseball Hall of Fame arguments, why I was pilloried for saying I thought Curt Schilling belonged in the Baseball Hall of Fame, because it's not the Hall of a Nice Person, because his accomplishments are very real. It's different than the argument I think you make against putting steroid users into the Hall of Fame, because the actual baseball accomplishments may not be very concrete. Aaron Rodgers' on-field performance is that you can't argue with it. Now, there are some, I think, other candidates in the field where you can make a respectful case for, sure, of course. And if he had said none of the rest of that and just said, I want to make a case for this guy, and done that, then we could all sit here and speculate, oh, did he not pick Rodgers because he hates the Packers, because he loves the Bears? And he could have skated right through this, no problem. Or he could have said all of the things that he said, but I'm going to vote for him anyway, because that's not how this will work. So we all would have been like, yep, that's true. I don't like this guy winning this award. I'm going to have to hold my nose a little bit, but the facts is the facts. So look, it is a narrative award to an extent. We're not talking about, who gets the rushing crown for the year. But when we say it's a narrative award, I think we're talking a lot more about something else that Aaron Rodgers absolutely does need, which is where you're talking about most valuable versus best. That it doesn't necessarily go to the best person. It goes to the person who is the most valuable to their team. Well, guess what? Unfortunately for all of us, it's still Aaron Rodgers. Like, I get it, man. Like, I get loving your team. I certainly get hating Aaron Rodgers. I get not wanting good things for bad people. But because we don't have a character clause in this award, we can't just arbitrarily add one because we all hate this guy.
I made a big mistake last night. Arkush told 670 the score in Chicago just a little bit before we started recording via Pro Football Talk again. He explained, Mike Florio writes, that the mistake came not from tying the vote to improper factors, but in talking about it publicly. It's on me, Arkush.
There you go.
Decision to disclose his plan not to vote for Rodgers. I screwed up. All you can do is own it, and I own it. I have a lot of thoughts here, and
that's not owning it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I got caught. I'm sorry you reacted badly. That's what that is.
Yeah. It's not a great apology, and I mean we can split hairs here, right? Like, you can go back. We all have our axes to grind in anything. Any journalist that covers anything for a long time or very closely develops, little biases, and you can try and control for them, but they're there. Like when I was a Detroit Lions super fan and not getting paid by anybody for my opinions, I was like, this is baloney. Dante Culpepper is not as good as everyone thinks, blah, 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 blah. And then when I got the keys to, my own website, and then when I got the keys to other people's websites, I very frequently went back and went, look at his stats. He had a losing record as a quarterback. Like, look at the fumbles, look at the sacks. Like, this guy, is not as good as da 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 da. And I would never have voted for Dante Culpepper for MVP in a million years, even if I, in my heart of hearts, thought he might have deserved it. But that's not the same thing as going, I know this guy is the MVP, but I'm going to vote against him because I don't like him as a person. And even then, going out and saying publicly, it's like mistake on top of mistake on top of mistake. And I think I'm with the MVP. I'm of a lot of different minds. I kind of wish the award were something other than it is. I wish it were more position agnostic. I wish it weren't the best quarterback, because like the best quarterback is the most valuable player in the league. It just is. The sport is set up that way. I almost want to, have quarterbacks graded on a scale, or eliminate quarterbacks from contention, make a quarterback award, and give me who's the most valuable non-quarterback, because I think that's just so much more interesting a discussion. I also think, frankly, I can't vote for Aaron Rodgers for MVP until I find out what happens in the playoffs, because the guy who gets you to the second round of the playoffs every single year and then loses in the second round of the playoffs every single year, like how valuable is that? Really? How valuable is that?
Yes.
Really? All of this stuff, this entire year, this whole offseason, all of the drama, all of the Instagram, all of the models and actresses, all of the Jeopardy, all of the everything, all of the anti-vaxxing and the Joe Rogan, all of that comes back to, okay, great. You had the same season you had last year, and now you're going to end up in the same spot, which is a home game in the second round. And if you don't do any better than that, then why'd you come back? It was all a wash. It was all for nothing. And all the news right now is, oh, he can't wait to come back. And right now, it's good with him and the Packers. Can't wait to come back and do it again. If I'm the Packers, I don't know that I want all that to do that again. We can make the playoffs and lose with Jordan Love. Like, what, So I have a lot of different aspects on this, a lot of different thoughts on this, but I'm going to follow up with, at the end of the day, your credibility as an analyst, as a reporter, depends on not doing stuff like this. And by extension, the credibility of all analysts, all reporters, everyone who covers sports like it matters, looks dumb when you go out and say stuff like this, and you go out and trend on Twitter. And the only reason anybody knows who you are now is because you treated your job like it didn't matter. It makes all the rest of our jobs matter less. But thankfully, we are about to talk to someone who makes his job matter, who takes his job seriously, who is a consummate professional, all aspects of things. Field Yates NFL insider for ESPN, co-host of the Fantasy Focus Football podcast. We cannot wait to talk to him when we come back on 3 and Out, your national NFL podcast.